And we're going to do brief intros about ourselves, you know, our background a little bit. I've been public fursuiting for about 10 years myself. In 2014, I founded a 501c3 nonprofit organization called Emerald City Critters. I see a bunch of people that are with that organization in this room right now. And we've done a lot of charity work for the Komen Foundation, American Cancer Society, Arthritis Foundation, and American Cancer Society as well. So,
and ALS.
And ALS, that's what I meant to say, ALS, yeah. We just did that this year. And we've also done a lot of community events like parades and festivals, and it's just a lot of fun. So we'll be talking about that. And Leilia.
So I've been suiting for 3 years now. I've really involved in public fursuiting. I've done a lot of charity events and public events. I've also joined a group in Florida called the Agents of Mirth, similar to the Emerald City Critters. We do a ton of different charity events in the Brevard, Florida area. And I have also done some outside work in mascot performance at Give Kids the World. So I have a little bit of experience with that as well.
Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about is the main differences between fursuiting in public versus at a convention environment. So why do we want to fursuit in public? Anybody? What's so special about it? Anyone?
People love to see them. Some of them have never seen it before, so they're like, surprised. But in a good way, it's like, oh wow, that looks so cool.
Exactly, yeah, it's the expectation. When you're at a con, you kind of expect to see fursuits. It's not, I mean, they're cool, obviously, but they're not really out of the ordinary. But when you're in public, you get that special reaction that's like, wow, it just really blows people's minds and makes them smile, and it's just a great thing. It's also a much more controlled venue at a con, because, again, people expect fursuits, and most of us have been around fursuits. But in public, it's a whole another animal, say, no pun intended, but it's completely different, and it's very, there's a lot more variables involved, and we're going to talk about some of those a little bit.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is what I feel is the most important thing that you need to keep in mind when you're going out in public, is that you have to have a handler. Have to. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, they're very important. Their main job is to be kind of like the performer's eyes and ears, as well as spokespeople for the group, because most, I'd say, performers don't speak. We're both silent characters, so that's one of their many jobs.
Handlers also are basically your eyes and your ears. They're going to keep out for any pitfalls, any small children that might be behind you or where you can't see them, anything that you might not be able to see in suit with your impaired vision.
It's something even as simple as like a curb, like when you're walking down the sidewalk. Fursuiter's vision, it's very difficult to see these things that are on the ground in front of you. So it's their handler's job to say, oh, there's a curb coming up, watch your step, etc. Things like that. Because I've seen some pretty nasty falls. One of the things that handlers need to do is keep large groups together. Say you're going out in a group of 6 or 8 suitors. A lot of times what will happen is part of the group will get stopped for a photo, and then the other part of the group will go on. So it's really important for the handlers to keep everyone together so everyone's not all over the place and fragmented.
It's like herding cats.
Yes, exactly.
Handlers are also going to keep track of your time, because it's really, really easy to lose track of time when you're fursuiting. You don't have a watch on, you're having fun, you may lose track of how long you've been in suit, and that is your handler's job to keep an eye on the time for you and know when it's time to take breaks and make sure you don't overheat.
Yeah, handlers can also carry a backpack with water or like a carry cooler, so they have that available. The suitors have that available to them as they're performing. In my experience, the ideal ratio for suitors to handlers is 2 to 1, or no more than 3 to 1. So it's basically 3 suitors for every 1 handler. Especially in a crowded venue when there's a lot going on, you want to make sure that there's enough handlers to wrangle everyone and make sure everything's going good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's important when you have your handlers to make clear signals, ways of communicating with your handler when you're out. So using different hand signals for things that you need. Just communicate that beforehand with your handler. Like for, if I'm thirsty, do this. Having an emergency signal, I think is really useful.
Yeah, what do you guys use for you have an emergency signal for yours?
My emergency signal is actually,
Oh, you just hit it?
Yeah.
Yeah, hand over the eye and then raise your hand.
which I actually learned is what performers at Disney use.
Oh, okay.
That's where that came from, and with the, if the performer does that, what the handler would say is, "Oh, do you have something in your eye? Let's go and take you in for a break."
Yeah, that's a good one. There's other simple ones like break. I need a break or something. Our emergency signal would be like a hand across the throat. There's many different ways. So as long as everyone's on the same page, it should be fine.
And it's got to be something that you can't get misconstrued with any other signals or hand motions.
Yeah.
Something very clear and obvious.
One thing that, as you guys have more experience with for handlers, you can have one of them maybe be a designated photographer or video person, especially if you're looking to form an official group later on. It's really important, we'll talk about this more later, but it's really important to have that portfolio that you can show prospective organizations to try to get into events. So that's one thing, if you have extra handlers, that's something they can do.
Yeah, it's definitely important to keep in mind as a handler that it is more important to be watching out for your fursuiter than to be taking pictures. So if you only have one handler, like I often do, he will take photos when he knows it's safe, but his most important job is to keep an eye out for me and make sure that everything's okay there.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say you said. You can start.
Another really important thing, this kind of leads from the handlers, is just general safety. Fursuiting in public has a lot of pitfalls that you might not necessarily see in convention space. It's really, really important to be safe and take care of yourself when you're out in public. The most important thing I would say is to take breaks. Do not marathon suit in public. It's not safe. Know your limits. I shoot in Florida. It's typically 80 to 100 degrees outside.
Very humid.
Yes.
Yeah.
My maximum is usually 20 to 30 minutes. And before I can take a break, and I try and stick to that pretty, well, my handler makes me stick to that pretty carefully.
You have the best handler on the planet.
It's true, I do. He's right back there for anyone who wants to know. In the blue, yeah. And he's the cutest handler.
And stay hydrated, guys, when you're shooting before, during, and after, if possible. Water is best, also I would recommend sports drinks too, like Gatorade or Powerade, because those replace the electrolytes that are lost through sweat, and I definitely sweat a lot when I shoot, so that's important. Yeah, be sure to drink at least one full bottle of water before you go out, for sure.
Sorry, I'll be back.
Round you.
Oh, perfect, okay. Yes, so the eating properly is really important. One thing I sometimes bring is things that are high in potassium to rebuild those electrolytes. If you like bananas, I hate them. They're really good. I use pumpkin seeds. They're high in potassium and they have some sodium to help rebuild those electrolytes there. Just make sure that you have eaten properly because you can definitely get really sick.
Yeah, don't eat that burger and fries before you're shooting. Not recommended. Something else to consider is cooling vests or neck wraps. There's a whole bunch of things that can help keep you cool and suit and help your endurance and not get heat exhaustion. Do you wear a cooling vest? I don't personally.
I do for most of my events because again, it's Florida. It's very, very hot.
Yeah.
I have the easy cool down vest, and it is awesome. It comes with inserts, and they actually get cold really quickly. If you put them in ice water, they'll get cold within like 20-30 minutes. So usually I just bring 2 sets and swap them out, and that can be really, really helpful. Now it's not a alternative to taking breaks. So you've got to keep that in mind. You may feel cooler, but you've got to still take breaks there, so don't let that give you a false sense that you can see for longer than you should be suiting for. Easy cool down also makes little neck wraps, which are a lot more economical and pretty easy to wear, and they cool like one of the most important parts around the back of your neck there, so that can be really helpful as well.
Something we don't have on here, but it's really important, is to wear the right undergarments when you're suiting. Yeah. I prefer actual name brand Under Armour. There's lots of off brands that work almost as well, but really a compression heat gear Under Armour is absolutely vital, because what it'll do is it'll wick the sweat away from your body. So it really just helps keep you cool as you're performing. And it helps you last a lot longer because it gets really hot in there.
Yeah, I've used a few different brands as well, and I also prefer the Under Armour brand. But other ones will work.
Yeah, the other work, and they're considerably cheaper too.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're on a budget, don't feel like you have to get the Under Armour brand. Okay. So obviously, one of the biggest risk factors is going to be heat exhaustion, or in severe cases, heat stroke. So it's important to know those signs before they get to be a problem. So early signs are going to be headaches, dizziness, muscle cramps. When it gets more serious, you can have nausea and vomiting. Fainting can be an issue. And I actually did see this happen at one of my events that I went to. It was an event with the Agents of Mirth, and one of our suitors actually did faint, and it was terrifying. He was fine. We got him back to our, we have like a van that we change in. We got him back there and got him cooled down, but it was really, really scary. So I have seen firsthand that that can be a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, so the moral of the story here is play it safe. So if you see any of those early signs like exhaustion, just go ahead and get yourself out of the performance area, take a break, and just make sure you're okay before you go back up. Okay, so one of the big draws about fursuiting in public is getting to fursuit around kids. It's a great thrill. We both love it. That's a lot of reason why we all do this. So we're going to do some demonstrations now. We have a couple of fursuiters here. We got Queenie and Chimichanga, right? Yeah. Okay, let's have you guys up. There's we can take maybe one more suitor if anyone in the back wants to take them up for demonstrations.
Hello.
Hey. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so the first thing to remember when you're first swimming around kids is especially the younger set, maybe ages 5 and under, they can be really intimidated by a big character, no matter how cute you may be. So they're already doing it. So I was going to say, what's the most important thing to do? And that's get down to their level as they're doing. They're crouching low, so they now don't appear as a big, scary creature. And also the thing is, let them come to you. Never rush a child. That could be very traumatic and scary. So most times they'll warm up and they'll come up to you, maybe offer your paw for a high five or something like that. Yeah, just like that. Perfect. Now I saw you guys doing this just a second ago. If they're kind of unsure and kind of scared to approach you, this is excellent. Act scared in return. That's great. It's like, oh, if it's scared of me, why am I scared?
I sometimes use my handler and I'll hide behind him.
Yeah, that was actually my next one. Yeah, that's great. Really well too. That works really well. Yeah, hide behind your handler, and also interact with the parent too. Yeah, that one's great because
Black as water. That should be.
Not sure what's going on here, but okay. So yeah. So when you interact with the parent, the kid obviously trusts the parent. So if the suitor is having fun with the parent, then okay, then they must be okay. That's what they'll think.
Oh yes, this is really important. Never ever hold someone's baby or child. I don't know why this is a thing, but it is. But parents seem to have this need and desire to put their children in the arms of these animals with very bad dexterity. And that's just, you're just asking for trouble with that.
Okay, so we're going to pretend this water bottle is a baby, and they're going to non-verbally say no. Okay, let's see how they do it.
It's not mine.
That's perfect.
I thought it was take children.
This is not what I do when I'm in suit! Bad dog!
We dropped the baby.
Okay, so yeah, the character's Queenie, so we'll just call her Queenie. So what she did was really good.
I'm obviously.
You are obviously Queenie.
This is impossible.
So what she did was really, really good. So she basically just said, no, let's just hold the baby and we'll take a picture together. That's fine too. And you can do like the thing where you not verbally say, I have no dexterity in my paws, like that, because babies don't bounce very well. I don't know if you've ever tried that. But.
This is a really good time for your handler to step in and explain that that's just not something that a fursuiter can do. You can even do it in kind of a funny way, like my handler would sometimes be, well, she's got butterfingers. You really don't want her to hold your baby.
The other thing that really helps sometimes if someone brings a baby to you or a child to you is to go, I find if I go down, because they are holding the baby like this. Can you kneel in my suit? Yeah. If you go down like that, then they're like, oh.
Yeah.
And then they will instinctively go down to that level.
Yeah.
And then they've got a nice photo.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and I've had one incident with it wasn't a kid, but and this is another thing. I do a lot of dog events, and people want to put their animals in your arms too.
That actually just happened.
That happened in the elevator.
Yeah, it happened in the
They wanted Father the Rainbow to hold a service animal.
Oh no!
Okay, I'm gonna have to withhold your Queenie rights.
And that can almost be even scary because those animals, can freak out. They don't know what's happening. They could get away. That's really, really
They
scary.
can bite us.
Yes, exactly. They could do that. There was one event, and the lady just came in before I could do anything. Before my handler could do anything, she just put her dog in my arms. And so, what I did, and there wasn't anything else I could do, is just slowly sunk down to the ground. So that way we were both on the ground. I wasn't going to drop the dog. Yeah, usually you want to try and stop that situation before it happens.
When there is an animal, I concentrate on the animal, not the person.
Yes.
Oh my God. And the first thing that you do as a performer is you look away. And if the dog sees that you're disengaged, they don't see you as a threat.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
the owner tends to get it too, because at that point you're ignoring their dog. And they're like, huh, you're ignoring my dog.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're going to be asked to stop for a lot of pictures when you're shooting in public. So I'm interested to see you guys as you have some poses that you like to do. You should have at least 3 or 4 that you can switch off. There you go, yeah.
Very nice.
And remember, when you're in a suit, you want to be big and broad. Just think, you're on stage, you're performing, everyone's looking at you, so.
And think about your suit and your character.
Yeah.
Like with Leilia, she's got big floppy ears, so one of my main poses, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, is to just take the ears and pull them out. That's kind of a cute one. And
The glasses is my thing. You don't know my poses, do you? So I will go.
This is not my first suit.
I'll go. Give me that one. I'll go.
oh, that's very cute.
Oh, there we go, that's
So now, over here.
Is it a puppet or a fursuit?
That's great. So yeah, practice your standard poses and also practice in front of a mirror and change it up, so you have a few different ones that you can use.
It's also important to keep in mind, when you're posing for pictures to make sure your hands are visible at all times.
Yeah, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, hands out,
Yeah.
paws out to the side, so
Yeah.
you
I'm not
can see them, yeah.
Chimmy, I need to borrow you because I'm not going to do it to her. Come here, man. You know that thing the other week when you weren't here, but I was like this? Actually, you can do it. Come somewhere. This woman, I'm in her. This woman just comes like, and I've got my hands out like this. So what I do is I just go, whoa. That was scary.
Okay, let's do this one because it's kind of important. This is due from last year. So I've had a lot of problems at events where kids grab tails. It just happens, especially if you have a large, floppy tail like that. It's just natural. Kids want to grab tails. So how would you? So generally, this is something your handlers should be able to deal with. You know, they should be able to stop the situation. But just in case your handlers aren't around, how would you non-verbally tell a kid not to touch your tail? Yeah.
That's not the best way to do it.
Yeah. So yes, exactly. What you just did. Just hold it like that, and maybe do like a wag your finger or something like that.
Or just do it while ignoring that child. Yeah.
It's not the kids that you have to worry about, it's the adults.
Yes, that's true. Yes,
I've had my tail
The
tugged.
other suitors do it too.
I would never tug your tail.
Oh boy.
Actually, the worst group of people to watch out for are teenage boys.
Absolutely.
Yes, from my perspective.
And yeah, just keep an eye on your tail in general. I went to an event once, and later I found a lollipop in my tail.
What?
One of the shooters at one of my other events, somebody tried to light their tail on fire with a lighter.
What?
Yeah. That's an unusual situation, but it's just something to keep in mind is that not everyone has kind intentions or.
You're complaining that your tail is limp. I'm fixing it.
Arrested that person.
Okay, so that's all for demonstrations. Thank you guys so much for sharing. Okay, let's talk about props real quick. We're a little behind here, so we're going to try to fly through this as fast as we can. So props are great that match your character or the event that you're attending. There are pros and cons to props. I'll talk about in a second.
1 second, Kijani.
Okay.
I'm going to take these two out of suit because they've been in suit for 3 hours.
That's fine.
Thank you guys so much.
So my character is a lion, so I have this zebra leg here. Kind of looks like the star leg from Lion King. It has a squeaker in it too. And the kids do like the squeaker. Don't overdo squeakers. And also say you're attending like a Ren fair or something. I have another prop here. I have this this shield. It's pretty cool. It does match the medieval theme, so just be creative with it. The bad thing about props though is if you're holding this, you lose obviously one paw, so you can't. It's harder to interact with people. But if you're having trouble, improvising, it can be a good thing to have.
Yeah, props are cute. I've never been a big fan of them just because I use my hands a lot. So I found when I bring props, I just felt really limited, and you have to hold on to it the whole time, or have your handler hold it for you. There's also a chance that a kid could try and take it from you. So keep that in mind as well. So don't bring anything that you're like really attached to, just in case.
Okay, that's we talked about. Okay, let's talk about talking in suit. Now, this is kind of a controversial thing in the fandom, but I know both of us we are silent characters.
But I do actually, since last year, I have a new fursuit, and he is a talking character, and I have been trying that out at public events, and it has been very interesting to see the difference and try out something different. At public events as a talking character opposed to a non-talking character.
One thing I think we really need to try to do when you do a talking character, and I've seen them pulled off magnificently, is you got to change your voice pretty significantly. You can't just use your regular demon voice. It really helps to have a movable jaw. Does yours have a movable jaw?
Yes, and in fact, certainly, you know, you can choose to do whatever you want, but I feel that the moving job really helps with the illusion and makes it a little bit less uncanny.
Yeah,
I think the big thing is that, you know, especially with mascot performers in general, the expectation is that they're silent, mostly because I think they don't have moving mouths, and it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, I've seen people really freaked out when a character with a static jaw starts talking because the jaw doesn't move, and I've seen it really freak people out, actually. So the trade-off between using a speaking character and a silent character is there's a fun challenge to pantomiming all your emotions, you know, when you're going out and performing, and all your reactions. It's a fun challenge to do that. And the thing is also, kids really latch on to speaking, I've found. So if they hear you speak, they're going to be like, you said something, speak more, and then they'll forget about the character part of it, and they'll just latch on to the fact that you were talking.
Yeah. On the other hand, it can also be helpful in situations, you know, you're able to explain, you know, what you're doing and, you know, do those things. I had a particular example. I had one event that I went to. It was a whole festival. It wasn't one that it was, you know, this was just one I chose to go to and try out some public fursuiting at. And after I suited up, I was actually approached by a security officer, and I was, you know, ready to be like, okay, I'm sorry, you know. And he just, you know, was kind of asking me questions, and I'm talking to him in suit, and he was just really curious about what I was doing, and I explained everything. And at the end of it, he was like, oh, that's really cool. I've never talked to a talking dog before.
What was one of the first things about animals? Oh, yeah, okay, you can go ahead.
The other controversial thing that we're going to cover is breaking the magic in terms of taking your head off in public. I know there's a lot of feelings towards this. My personal feelings in convention spaces and those kinds of things, you do you. That is absolutely your choice and not a big deal. If you're in public, I feel like it's a little bit better to try and at least find an area that's out of sight, unless it's a medical emergency. Never ever put, you know, breaking the magic over your own health and safety.
Yeah, I agree. In the case of a medical emergency, absolutely take that head off and get help if you need it. But there's something to be said about maintaining that character, you know, not ruining the magic, especially around kids. You know, adults, they get it. There's a human underneath. But the kids, part of the illusion of the wonderful part of fursuiting is that the kids can really believe that you're a talking dog or you know, whatever. So yeah, try not to ruin the magic unless, of course, medical emergency happens.
And it's just a little bit of professionalism too, especially if you're going with a group to an event. You know, mascot characters are expected to, you know, keep their heads on. Like I said, I used to work at Kids of the World, which operates very similar to Disney, and we could not de-head in public at all, pretty much under any circumstances. So.
Animals. Yeah, that's your specialty.
Oh, yes. So I'm just going to cover real quick, we talk about suiting around kids. I'll just cover a little bit about suiting around animals. That is something that I do a lot. In fact, just a few weeks ago, I was at a Halloween dog event that had hundreds of dogs. It's a little bit different sometimes. I found if I'm at an event with a lot of dogs, I have to kind of tone down some of my interactions, to be very, very aware of your movements and your surroundings. Because there's, you know, tiny dogs that you may not see, and dogs can get spooked really easily. It helps to kind of be able to recognize dog body language, or have a handler that's really good at that, so you can spot from a distance whether a dog is going to be concerned with you or not. And just be careful with eye contact. Always let them approach you first. As with kids, getting down to their level can be a good idea, but just keep in mind with animals, this also makes you very vulnerable. I have had an instance where a very excited dog knocked me over when I crouched down and then rolled on top of me. And I was pretty much stuck there.
He just wanted to play.
Yeah, he was very, very excited and happy, but I was like, oh, I'm trapped now. On that, so just some things to keep in mind there. Just be aware of the animals that you're going to be sitting around.
Okay, let's talk about choosing a venue. Say you guys want to go out in public and suit. Where would be a good place to start? A public park is an excellent place to start. First of all, it's public, so you know you're free to do whatever you want there, pretty much as far as fursuiting goes. Or maybe just a stroll downtown. You know, especially right now because we're downtown Seattle. It could be an interesting experience, although it might be a little risky to fursuit in this area. But it's good practice for public interaction. Say whatever at a public park, you know, bring a frisbee, a basketball, or just play on the jungle gym there. We had an interesting thing happen several years ago. We fursuited at a public park, and I bought a basketball, and we had a pickup 3-on-3 basketball game with 3 fursuiters and 3 like 11-year-olds. And so I tell you, the 11-year-olds took great pride in beating us. They did not let us out there. I think we scored 1 basket and they got like 12. So. Yeah.
But do just keep in mind some different cities and states can have some mask laws, so make sure to check that first. And if you are approached by any police or security, don't hesitate at all to take off your head. Don't give them any trouble.
Yeah, that's a good point. There are not that many states that have that no mask policy, but the information can be found online. I know for a fact Virginia is one that has no mask, and that's the only one I know for sure that does not allow it. So, yeah, definitely look it up before you go out. Okay, so let's talk about public space versus private property. So you've seen videos on YouTube, I'm sure, fursuiting at Walmart, whatever, things like that. Well, it's not the greatest idea because stores like Walmart, almost all public malls, whether they're indoor or outdoor, have no mask policies. So if you try to fursuit in one of those locations, you're going to get kicked out by security. It's a big risk to them, security-wise. So to get into a mall for whatever reason, now even on Halloween, guys, trust me on this one, requires careful planning and communication. And you need to bring written consent for whoever's in charge of head of security or whatnot. When I first started shooting, we had a Halloween meet at a local mall. And of course the kids are allowed to wear masks and stuff. And so they got permission, supposedly, from security for us to go in and fursuit there. Well, we actually got kicked out because for some reason, whoever was working that day didn't get the message, and adults are not allowed to wear masks with their costumes. So just be real careful, guys. Oh, I'll talk about this too. Bowling or mini golf is excellent too. As I'm sure a lot of you guys have, from around here have attended the Furball Strike, which is the bowling meet that I run near here. So if you want to try to start a bowling meet up in your area, just be very transparent with the manager on duty. So what I would do is say you want to hold the event on a Saturday night or a Saturday afternoon, go in at that time that the manager will be working during your event. So Saturday afternoon or whatever, and just tell them pretty much straight up what's going on. I want to bring in a bunch of mascot characters and have a bowling party basically. And they'll probably ask you more questions about it. Just don't try to hide anything. And like when I tried to first organize the Furball Strike 10 years ago, the manager was all for it. He was super excited. Like, this is going to be great. Let's bring them in. And all of a sudden we're like the biggest one in the world. So you never know. You never know what's going to happen. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about prepping.
Okay. So we're going to cover preparing for the performances next. So it's really important to be prepared. I really like that. So once you get there, just scout the videos. Scout out that venue in advance, check for any potential pitfalls, and keep an eye out for break locations. It's really important. Places that you can take a break. And
pop your head off if you need to.
Yeah. Know your exits and ways that you can get out if you need to.
So important thing is to have, when you're out in public at a certain venue, have a home base or something. You like, Leilia said they use a van, that's great. Or a place to change. Basically wherever you change, it should be your home base. So knowing your exits is like, from wherever you are in the venue, know the quickest way out to there, in case of emergency. And try to formulate a plan or a route and follow it as closely as possible. So like, say you're at a festival, you might want to make one loop around the whole festival and just kind of leave it at that. Because if you start just kind of wandering around aimlessly, you're going to get lost and lose track of time.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, it does, definitely. And make sure that your handlers, again, know what their roles are, what exactly they're doing, and how to handle an emergency if there is one that pops up.
Okay, organized events in your hometown. Now, most all cities and towns have festivals during the summer. That's a great way to get involved fursuiting in your community. And a lot of them have parades attached to them as well. And those are great, especially if you have a group of suitors. The most important thing is just register for the parade in advance. Most of the information is online, and they love to have fursuiters. I mean, I've done probably about 6 or 7 different ones in the Seattle area, and it's been a great experience.
Have you considered the Torchlight Parade?
Is that the downtown one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually never done that before, but.
Nice to be, charity events, fundraisers, these are really great opportunities, and if you do enough research, you can find that they're almost always going to be happening on weekends. I don't know about you, but I found that Facebook is a really great way to find different events to reach out to. And just kind of keep in mind, what type of charity events might be best for you or your group.
The ones that make the most sense would be like charities that benefit kids or animals. I know she does a lot of animal charity work. Because it makes sense. You're like a humanoid, you're a walking, talking dog, right? So let's raise money for dogs. Now, a story that has just developed recently, this is really awesome, guys. I don't know if a lot of you guys know Dog Bomb, who's suffering from ALS right now. There's been a lot of fundraising and fursuiters going to ALS walks. The one in Southern California that he was involved with actually happened today, and they raised $22,000. That's amazing. So Dog Bomb's a pretty close friend of mine, and that's wonderful. And yeah, so it just shows that if you can rally some furries together, they can do great things.
Yeah, furries are amazing, y'all.
Well, let's talk about contacting organizers now. This is the most important thing. It helps you, it's basically the only way to get into events. As I said before, the best thing to do is to build a portfolio of your group performing in public. Preferably photos and video if possible, but at least have photos. So when you send that initial email to them or make that phone call, you can show them some photos saying, this is what we can bring to your event. Because it's one thing to say, oh, we have these mascot performers and they're great, they'll make people smile, but if they can see the character, interacting with anyone like a child, and they're like, oh wow, this is really great, we love to have you guys, it's a more positive reaction usually.
Unfortunately, it's still, there still is a little bit of a stigma sometimes attached to the furry community, so it's not a bad idea to kind of separate it. Or in a lot of cases that I've found, people, if you tell people, oh, I'm a furry, they're not going to know what that means. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing that I have found. So using terms that are easier to understand, like mascot performers, or character performers.
Exactly.
the group I work with, Agents of Mirth, is we actually consider ourselves a inclusive cosplaying group. We're mostly made up of fursuiters, but our group also includes some cosplayers. So that's a lot of times we just say, you know, we're cosplayers or, you know, costume performers. And that's pretty easy for people to understand.
Yeah, use positive connotation words like mascot performers. When people think of a mascot, it generates a positive image in their mind, and that's what you want. But I have found that, especially since I've joined the fandom, the connotation, the fandom has really gotten more positive press and stuff. So we'll actually have. Well, I'll go out to an event and people will be like, "Oh, the furries are here! Yay! You know, we love you guys." Stuff like that. It's really.
Yeah, I've noticed that change within the past year or two as well. In fact, I went to a large kids expo a few months ago, and I can't tell you the number of kids, young kids, that stop me and go, "Oh my God, I'm a furry! This is the best day of my life! There's a furry out here!" And it's so sweet. Or they'll tell me, "Oh, my friend is a furry," or, you know, "I know furries and they're awesome." So we're making an impact, and we're having some positive changes, and that's awesome.
And people are forgetting that stupid CSI episode.
Yeah, the more years pass, the better.
I've actually only had one incident, again with the Agents of Mirth. We did an event last year, and it went really well, and people seemed to like us. And this year we reached out to them and, you know, said, "Hey, we'd love to come back." And I said, "You can come back with your cosplayers, but not those furry characters." Because apparently there was some people complaining about connecting us to that CSI episode. And that was very, very unfortunate. But luckily that's not so much the norm anymore.
Okay, so one thing you need to make sure to say when you are initially contacting the organizations is you do not seek compensation, like monetary compensation, because a lot of times when you say you want to do mascot performance, they're going to assume you want to be paid for it, you know, and that's especially early on, that's just not going to work. So just make it very clear that you're doing it for fun, and you know, you can be compensated in other ways too. Like a lot of our charity events, they'll give us food and beverages and a place to change, and that's great. That's all you can really ask for.
Yeah, especially if you're doing this for charity events. Actually, there's only one event that I've done that they did pay me for, and it was the AKC National Championship. I actually mascotted for the Cocker Spaniel booth.
That is so cool.
Cool.
It was really cool. In fact, I just got an email from them about a week ago, and they asked me to come back this year.
Nice. Were you on TV?
I don't know, but our youth did win. So it's a youth contest. That's the only event that they did offer to pay me, and I'm like, AKC, this isn't a charity event, so I didn't feel too bad. But in general, you're not going to be getting compensation.
Right. Let's see. One other thing you should do is offer to help or assist with additional fundraising opportunities. Because really, when you're performing for an organization, you're working for them. You know, so it's really not up to you how you spend that time. Although most of the time they will say, you know, just go out and perform and have fun and entertain people. But so at least offer. You know, would you like us to have a photo booth area where we can raise additional funds for the charity? You know, photos with the critters or whatnot. So a lot of times they want you in a certain place at a certain time. Just leave it open ended. Okay, so depending on the event, you're going to have some sort of changing space for your group, for your team. I've had to change in parking lots before. Sometimes they'll give you a very nice room, like in a office park or a library or somewhere you're changing. So you have to be prepared for anything. Once you get in, make sure you ask for that and see what they can provide you.
The most unique one I had was a U-Haul. It actually surprisingly worked pretty well. But that was definitely interesting. They were using it, to store their stuff for the event, so it was empty when they got to the event, and you could close it, and it worked out pretty well.
Some other things you can do if they don't have a changing room for you is bring a pop-up tent or a canopy, like those 10 by 10 canopy tents. And what you would do is, for privacy, just put tarp or whatever, so there's barriers on the sides. But yeah, pop-up tents are good. They can change. Usually, it's just one person at a time. If you don't have a big group, that's one option. And the last resort, you want to change in like the parking lot or your car.
I've had to do that.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to do that if there's no facilities.
Yeah, and a lot of times, most events will assume that the bathroom is perfectly okay.
Yeah.
The worst one I had is I got to a parade and I asked them where the changing area was because they told me they had one, and they pointed to the porta potty.
Yeah, no. And last thing, guys, for contacting organizers, always act courteous and professional. It's maybe not your job, but treat it like a job. You will get turned down. It's going to happen. When I first formed Emerald City Critters, we got turned down, I think, the first 4 times I tried to get into events. Keep trying and don't give up. Once we got into the first one, we'll talk about this in a second, but the charity events, especially in the same local area, they talk to each other.
They do.
They do. I didn't know to the extent that they did, but we have gotten so many additional events based on good word of mouth from our appearances at other events. It's crazy. So
yeah, once you get one, it's really easy to start getting more.
Yeah.
And it also helps because you can say, oh, I've done this event, or I've had experience doing it. The hardest part is getting my first event. I mean, I got turned down a million times before I got my first event.
Okay, so this last section here, I call it For the Ambitious. So you guys, part of this panel is talking about forming your own, charity group or fursuiting group that you can do events. If you want to try to do that, the first thing you should do is create an official group name. There's for a number of reasons, but the main thing is to create a sense of solidarity within your group and make it more reputable. Because you can approach organizers and be like, oh, we're just a bunch of friends that like to do mascot performing. They're like, yeah, whatever. But if you say, we are Agents of Earth, we are Emerald City Critters, we are Critters by the Bay, it gives you that, that extra push. It'll help you get in. If you're really ambitious, you can trademark the name and register as a nonprofit organization. Now, there's 2 levels of nonprofit. You can do state registered nonprofit. Fees vary from state to state. It was very cheap in the state of Washington. It was less than $100. But if you really want to go all the way, I would go for make it a 501c3 nonprofit. And that's at the federal government level, of course. It's still relatively inexpensive. If you have less than $10,000 worth of income, which you will certainly be under if you're one of these groups, it's, I believe, $400. And it's a one-time fee. And it's a fairly simple process. I did it all online. The main benefit is that you are tax exempt, so all of your donations are tax deductible, and that's a very big benefit to have. And you're also in the national 501c3 registry, so you can go on the government website and type in Emerald City Critters and you're going to show up, which helps your reputation.
I believe that Agents of Earth is also registered as one as well.
And background checks, pretty important, and make certain organizations feel safer when you can, show that everyone in your organization has been run through a background check, especially because you've been working around kids a lot. And most nonprofits do this already, so that's something I would recommend. Have fun and treat, but as I said, treat it like a business. I would make business cards. I actually have some here. Is it working? Are you happy? Oh, you're not. Okay, yeah. Perfect. Go here. Yeah, so here's our Emerald City Critters business cards. I have all the handlers carry these when we're at events, so a lot of times we'll get questions like, who are we with? So we'll have them explain, it says on the card here, we're a nonprofit character performance organization serving the greater Seattle Puget Sound region, and it has my name on it and our website, email, and all the information that they would need. So these are really good to have when you're doing events. Let me show you what our jerseys look like. We have, whenever we're out performing, a lot of times the charities that we work with will have their volunteer shirts for our critters to wear, but in case that they don't, or we're doing a community event or a parade, we'll wear these jerseys. So this is what they look like. So your standard basketball jersey. If you'll notice, they have our logo and also our website on the front. So this is great for photos. So say you take a photo and the critter's wearing this, they can visit our website just by seeing on the front of the photo, the jersey in the photo. So, let's see. Well, yeah.
Yeah, having a website is really useful, and at the very least having a social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube.
Yeah, we have a YouTube. Facebook is a must, guys. A lot of people don't like Facebook, but it's for networking wise, it's almost you really need to have it.
It's pretty much the only reason I have Facebook.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I reach out to almost all of my events.
Yeah, a lot of the organizers have list their events on Facebook and network that way. So it's nice to be a part of that. So you can link photos from your event to the to the people running it and stuff like that. So at the very least, have a Facebook. And what was the last one?
Oh yeah. Instagram, I think, is becoming pretty popular, especially for businesses. So that one can be really helpful, and it's really quick to just upload some photos and tag events and that as well.
Yeah. And the last point we really want to make here is if you work hard at making each event you attend a success, your clients will take notice, they will. And you'll get more events and opportunities down the road. An example is we got into the Relay for Life, which is an American Cancer Society event about 3 years ago. And the team that runs that runs a number of other events in the area. And we got into their one called, it's a national night out, which is like on a Tuesday, it's a strange time. But anyway, it's for community safety. And we got into that based on our performance at the Relay for Life. So they do network, and so it's really important to just do your best to make sure every event is professional.
Yeah. The Agents of Mirth are located in kind of like a small area, kind of over in Cocoa Beach, if anyone's been in Florida, Melbourne area. And they have gotten to the point now where they are at so many events that, pretty much everybody in that town recognizes them, and they're doing multiple events every weekend. And it's really, really awesome to see how the community has reacted and ask them to all these different events.
Okay, so that's actually all the content we had. We'll also open up to questions now. If you have any questions about anything related to what we talked about, or you want to share your experiences, that's fine too.
Can I throw in a comment?
Yeah, sure.
On your compensation thing, also be aware if you're sitting in public, there's some, like if you're in a tourist city, I live in Las Vegas, don't accept tips.
Yes, that's
Oh,
good.
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yes, people is always trying to give tips.
I actually had that recently. I like to suit in St. Augustine. It's kind of a touristy city. And it's not something I had even considered. And we were taking pictures, and we had 2 or 3 people trying to offer us tips. And I was like, no, we're just doing this for fun. So that was an unexpected thing, but
we did an art festival in Las Vegas. We did it for like a year. We would go out and they would try to tip us, and so we had to. I would tell, because I was leading it, and I had to tell the women, don't touch money. And then if you were allowed to touch it, because I don't want you to go to jail.
Yeah, so I don't know if any of you guys have been to Las Vegas. Now, I go about once a year. I have some friends that live in the area. And if anyone's been to the Strip, there are costume performers that actually perform for money and expect tips. So especially when you're in that environment, a lot of people will go ahead and try to give you money because they think it's expected. So, yeah.
Those performers are registered.
Yeah, they have to be registered.
That is their actual job.
Yes.
So you're literally robbing them if you take tips.
And also they get mad if they see that you are taking pictures for free, they are getting mad at you.
Yes,
that's true, yeah.
Okay, that was a great point. Anybody else?
At a convention, how many Under Armours you take with you, or you are washing the same Under Armour night by night?
That's a good question. For conventions, I usually have 3 sets or so.
Yeah, I bring at least 3 or 4 sets myself. And
just kind of disinfect them in between uses.
Yeah, Febreze is your friend, antimicrobial, something like
For
that.
events, I will sometimes bring a second set if it's a long event, in case I need it. But a lot of times I'll just bring one set for that.
A clean fursuiter is a happy
Oh,
fursuiter.
we
Yes,
forgot to remember that.
absolutely.
Oh, yes. I mean, it's pretty much assumed, I would hope, but yes, please wash your suit, please brush your suit.
Yeah, make sure you're smelling nice before you go out.
Keep in mind, when you are out in public, you're representing all of us.
Yes, that's a great
whether
point.
you want to or not, it can reflect poorly on other public fursuiters if you go out with a smelly, yucky suit. So just don't do that.
Something I didn't get very clear. Why hats need to be visible in pictures?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't really exactly cover why this is. Unfortunately, there are still, people out there that might assume that you may have bad intentions or
Okay.
I've heard plenty of stories of, Disney performers getting sued because,
it's mostly a legal thing.
Pluto touched you, or,
Yeah.
where's Pluto's hand? We can't see it. So it's more just a, covering yourself thing
Yes,
than anything there.
More from America.
Yeah, probably.
And Mexico was like, please touch me.
I guess there's like society like differences, like or cultural differences.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
cultural norms, I guess. Yeah, just depending on which country you're in.
Yeah, so definitely if you're suiting
Kid is
peers.
allowed to hug you as hard as he wants. You could just gently wrap your arm around his shoulders at best.
Yeah, unfortunately there still can be a lot of liability and that.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
At least here, yeah.
Okay, I think that's about
Any last questions? Yes.
One thing is, we need to also watch out for each other no matter what.
Yes.
Especially, in con space or even out in public regardless. Because you never know what's going to happen. Someone could pull a gun on you. I heard a while back that some fursuiters got robbed.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Where was that at?
I don't remember. It was,
Yeah, and fursuiting definitely puts you in a really vulnerable position.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, that goes back to the handlers. Usually if you have handlers with you, they're not going to try anything.
Yeah, don't suit in any places that you feel like you might be unsafe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Plus, wouldn't you want to leave valuables at home if you're going to go out in fursuit?
Probably a good
When you
idea.
carry a good fursuit, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. We don't really have any pockets.
you want to carry your wallet with at least your ID in it at the very least.
But your
Yeah,
handler.
take the debit card
That-
and
yeah,
money out.
well,
Yeah.
Or if you've got a handler, entrust your handler with your,
Yeah, usually the handlers should carry the wallets and the
Yeah.
things. I actually don't have any pockets on my suit. I can't carry anything anyway. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Communication's also key. When you're in a big group like that, I recently did, what was it called? Pool Toys? We did a thing in Seaside, Oregon, and it was the first time I ever handled for a group. And the communication between the fursuiters that talked and the handlers and each other was really awesome. And I know they really liked the help, so it was really cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's definitely important to have handlers that you trust.
Yes, that's important.
And because these are people that are looking out for your safety. So that's really important to have somebody that you trust and.
Yeah, that has experience too. I know everyone's is new at one point, but try to have some handlers that have done it before. They kind of
definitely.
coach the newer ones at least.
Yeah.
And another thing, around here is actually pretty safe. I live here. I actually live right up here on 8th Avenue. And it's not too bad. Just make sure if you're going, go with at least 1 or 2 people that are not in suit. If you're going to be in suit, make sure to be very careful around these curbs. These curbs can be varying in height and size in this neighborhood. So. Yeah.
The best way to prevent any problems when you're out suiting is to go out there out of suit and investigate it first.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Scout your venues. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have another question?
Yeah, so if, let's say that somebody wanted to be a new handler, like basically learn how a handler should be, you know, conducting themselves and keeping the safety and all that. What if they don't like really know many other handlers or like don't have the ability to get in touch with them? Are there online resources that have a good checklist or guide?
I know that, I mean, there's definitely been a couple panels.
Yeah, what I would suggest is there's a lot of YouTube videos that have like how to be a handler 101 basically, and that's a really good resource.
In fact, the Agents of Mirth just did one at Nightflex that was very good. So yeah, I've actually been thinking of putting together something that has all that information there. I think that could be
just kind of a central resource that can be accessed anywhere.
If anyone watches Fursuiters World, I think it's on Vimeo, they have a really good one on handlers as well.
Oh yeah, Kahori and Grave, they're awesome.
They are. They have some really good, covering all kinds of things, so they have a really good one on handlers.
Or I would say like attach yourself to a fursuiter that has more experience sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, because the fursuiter will know probably the best, you know, what the handler's responsibilities
I've
should be.
handled for people that like really need help and so they don't know they need it, but I can handle for Max and he knows what he's doing, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, during the Olympics, when I was working with them, we actually didn't allow anybody to handle unless they worn the suit.
That's actually a good point. In fact, my husband is not a furry, not a fursuiter, but when I was first getting into it, I asked him to at least put it on my head so he could understand how bad my vision really was and what my range of vision, and I think that's been very helpful. So I think that is a really good one for handlers, is maybe just have them, you know, put the head on and see what it's like on the other side.
Even wearing a Halloween mask that does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's, you know.
Exactly.
Okay, it looks like we're out of time, a little bit over time. Thank you so much for attending. Hope this helped.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.